10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Growing older, what's next?
The recent headlines are nothing short of stunning, blaring. Scientists successfully reverse human aging process in breakthrough first-of-its-kind study. Hi, I'm Marc Middleton, and welcome to a special edition of Growing Boulder's What's Next. You know, when it comes to longevity, when it comes to not just increasing our lifespan, but more importantly, our health span, what's next is now beyond exciting. We're going to dig deeper into this in just a moment, but here's the overview. Researchers from Tel Aviv University used hyperbaric oxygen chambers to target what has been referred to as the human biological clock, the caps on the ends of our chromosomes, which are called telomeres, that protect the strands of DNA and preserve our genetic information. And as those telomeres shorten, so does our remaining time, because the DNA strands that they protect become frayed. Our cells can no longer successfully replicate, and the diseases of aging begin to advance. In 2009, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for discovering an enzyme that's called telomerase that can actually slow the shortening of telomeres. Dr. Blackburn wrote a provocative book about her research that's called The Telomere Effect, a revolutionary approach to living younger, healthier, longer. We had the rare opportunity to interview Dr. Blackburn, and we'll share some of her thoughts in just a moment. But for now, let's get back to today's headlines, because Dr. Blackburn's research proved that we can slow the shortening of telomeres based upon the lifestyle choices that we make. The research that's just come out of Tel Aviv suggests that we can actually lengthen telomeres, which in effect would be resetting our biological clock. Dr. Shaya Frati co-authored the study, which he says provides evidence that aging can be reversed at a cellular level through a unique form of hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy.
In order to achieve regeneration, we are taking people into a hyperbaric chamber, increase blood oxygenation to high level, and then do a fast decline. This decline triggers all the regenerative cascade that we need in order to rejuvenate the tissue.
This groundbreaking research has given birth to the AVIV Clinic and the AVIV Medical Program, which is based upon the hyperbaric oxygen therapy treatment protocol. A second clinic will soon open in Dubai, but at this moment, there is only one AVIV clinic in the entire world, and it's in the Villages, Florida. I recently sat down with Dr. Mohammed Elamir, aka Dr. Mo, a board-certified physician in both internal and aesthetic medicine, to learn more, and the conversation was fascinating. Dr. Mo, it does seem to be a significant breakthrough, and obviously there are headlines in most of the media operations throughout the world. This has got to be a very exciting time to be a part of the AVIV Medical Program team.
Absolutely, Mark. After our last research study that was published on telomeres, we had a flood of calls, emails, inquiries. It was all hands on deck, including myself and some of the other physicians fielding the calls. It was very exciting.
And I understand that, probably the foundation of your program is the hyperbaric oxygen treatment, but it is so much more than that, and I want to get to that. But that said, let's start with the hyperbaric oxygen treatment. In lay terms, if you will, what is that and what does it do?
Absolutely. So you're absolutely right. The hyperbaric oxygen treatment centers around hyperbaric oxygen chambers or hyperbaric oxygen suites. And what that does is, while you're inside a hyperbaric oxygen suite, you are under pressure. And when you're breathing oxygen, under that pressure, you can increase the concentration of that oxygen up to 15 times the normal concentrations. And that's great because our oxygen is delivered to our cells, and our cells need it to metabolize and survive. But it's the fluctuation of oxygen that we've discovered over years of research that shows that you can actually improve and capitalize on the healing properties of the body. You can increase your stem cells, you can increase your blood vessel growth, you can improve your mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. And all of that is involved using a hyperbaric oxygen as the pressure vessel to deliver that oxygen and fluctuate those levels to trigger those properties.
And I want to talk about achieving those properties and maintaining them. But first, I think when most people hear a hyperbaric chamber, I know I did. I imagined, lying down vertically and getting, pushed into a tube. And when I saw your chambers, honestly, my mind was blown. It reminded me, as I told you earlier, of being on the set of a science fiction movie.
Absolutely, you're right. If you Google hyperbaric oxygen chamber, you'll see what we call a monoplace chamber. It's basically a single occupant, horizontal or vertical, and you're by yourself, and that whole chamber is pressurized with oxygen. And that's what is most commonly seen. But ours is called a multi-place chamber. It's a large cabin, or suite as we call it, can house up to 14 people instead of one. But other than that obvious difference, the way the oxygen is delivered is different, because in a multi-place chamber, the ambient air inside the chamber is normal 21% oxygen, like we're breathing right now. And the oxygen is actually delivered via a mask in a pressurized environment. And that's actually the key difference that separates our program from a monoplace chamber, for example.
From what I understand, in addition to supporting longevity, and not just longevity, but healthy longevity, the impact of this hyperbaric oxygen treatment is important, if not profound, in certain illnesses and disease processes. And I know you kind of came to this research initially after your father had a stroke. Can you talk us through that a little bit?
Sure. I'm classically trained as a board certified internal medicine physician. I had my own practice up in New Jersey. And my father is a retired neurologist, and he had a stroke 4 years ago. And thank God it didn't affect his physical attributes, but it affected his speech. He had the stroke that isolated the part of the brain that controls the speech center. And he went from a full vocabulary to about 50 words. So very devastating. And I knew what traditional medicine could offer. Most of the time, if you see it happen, you have to catch it within those first 24 to 48 hours. But after that, it's standard therapy and speech therapy. So I was researching like any son or loved one would do. And I found Dr. Shai Efrati's research. Dr. Efrati is from Israel, the world-renowned expert on hyperbaric medicine. And he did over 12 years of research discovering what hyperbaric medicine can do to heal the brain. So when I read his paper and I saw how much data, how much research, how much science went behind it, I was instantly a believer. Coincidentally, I had headhunters offering job opportunities, and one told me about this AVIV Clinics in Florida, about hyperbaric medicine. And my experience with hyperbaric medicine before was I knew what it could do to heal my diabetic patients with their foot wounds. And I saw that happen. So I got to meet Dr. Efrati for an interview. He was in New York City one day, and I had breakfast with him. And breakfast went to brunch, and brunch went to lunch, and we spoke for over 3 hours. He told me all about how he came across hyperbaric medicine, the science behind it, the research, what he noticed, what he saw. His first study was actually to disprove that this could work, that hyperbaric medicine could help the brain, and he couldn't disprove it. And that set off all his research. So I was sold once I talked to him and once I actually read through everything. And now I'm here, and I'm helping patients just the way he did.
You mentioned your diabetic patients and your father with a stroke and brain issues in general. What other type of patients is this indicated for? Who might be most helped by this?
Absolutely. So I always like to quote Benjamin Franklin when I get that question. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, meaning you don't have to have a condition to do this treatment. All of us, you, me, everybody in the room, everybody, all your listeners, we're all undergoing microvascular change. In practice, I used to get MRIs on patients that had migraines or headaches or something. And the radiologist would always say, microvascular changes consistent with age. And I always wondered, what do you mean consistent with age? What are you trying to tell me? As we age, little blood vessels in the brain collapse or get damaged, and that causes a subsequent loss of blood flow to that part of the brain. Now, somebody like my father, he had a sudden blockage of a big artery in the brain, and that caused the stroke suddenly. But those microvascular changes happens over time, little by little pieces of the brain, little parts of the brain slowly dying off or getting injured. We don't notice it on the spot. We notice it gradually as we age. We're not as sharp as we might have used to be. Our memory might be declining. I'm forgetting my keys. I went to the kitchen. What was I supposed to do? That's a sign of microvascular change. So even if you don't quote unquote have a diagnosis, you're undergoing that change. And that's what our program can help with. Our best patient is somebody I want to prevent cognitive decline. I want to prevent sarcopenia. I want to prevent damage to my body. That's my favorite patient. But yes, we can still treat, and we do treat. We treat people like my father who had strokes, people with traumatic brain injury, concussions. It's very much in the news nowadays. It doesn't have to be from a football injury. It can be from a motor vehicle accident, falling off a horse, falling off a ladder. Lyme's disease. Lyme's disease is an infection. A lot of people are familiar with it. I'm from New Jersey. We're in the Northeast. We hear about it all the time, but it's almost everywhere in the US now. And it can actually affect you cognitively. And the organism that causes Lyme disease hates oxygen. So this is also a treatment for that.
You've touched upon two of my favorite topics, so forgive the digression here, but we talk a lot at Growing Bolder about prehabilitation, which we call aging's ultimate no-brainer, the notion that it's a given we will all encounter a series of health setbacks as we age, and to a large extent, the extent and speed of our recovery is determined by our overall well-being at the time. So it seems like HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, would be a powerful form of prehabilitation.
Absolutely, and I love that word, prehabilitation. That's absolutely right. How you are physically, mentally, how your health is before an event will usually determine how you do through that event. So the best thing you can do is, while everything is great, work on it, continue it, maintain it. So hyperbaric oxygen does that on a physiologic level. We're increasing blood flow to different parts of the body. So if we're talking about the brain, we're able to build new blood vessels. All those little microvascular changes I talked about, we're able to build new blood vessels, help the blood flow to the brain, prevent that atrophy of the brain, prevent the cognitive decline. We're able to stimulate stem cell production. I was taught in medical school, you're born with your stem cells. You have stem cells until about 30 years old, and then they precipitously drop. That's not necessarily true. One of our biggest studies in the journal Aging describes measuring stem cells before treatment, in the middle of the treatment, and after the complete program. And the stem cells continue to rise. And all these people were 55 and older. That's revolutionary, to increase your stem cells at any age. And those stem cells are blank slate cells. They can become any cell you want them to be. So if we're talking about the brain, brain cells. If we're talking about the heart cells, muscle cells, and so on. So you're right. If you can build your body up, if you can improve your physiology before an event, you're going to survive it a lot better.
Here's what else I like about what you guys are doing, Dr. Mo. There's all this longevity stuff going on, and I think most people are lazy, if you will, and everybody is hoping that someone's going to come up with, some sort of medicine, some sort of vaccine, some sort of protocol that will enable them to have active longevity. And I've always said that you always have to participate. There's nothing that is going to work without your active participation. And if I understand it right, what you guys are doing, it's built upon this unique and transformational hyperbaric oxygen therapy. But beyond that, you're talking about modifying people's lifestyle. Everybody that comes in there gets a nutritionist, they get a physical therapist, they get a physiologist. I mean, you guys are working on the whole body so that they can maintain the benefits that they get.
That's correct. I mean, our program, yes, the core is the hyperbaric oxygen treatment, but it's an interdisciplinary approach. And you're absolutely right. It starts with a conversation with the physician and the potential patient or client. After that, you get a whole assessment process, and that involves not just a medical evaluation, but a full nutrition evaluation by a registered dietitian, a full physical therapy evaluation by the physical therapist, a physiological evaluation by the physiologist. They're going to be doing cardiopulmonary exercise stress testing, seeing how fit are you, how well can you consume oxygen and convert it to energy. You're going to see a neuropsychologist. They're going to evaluate everything about your cognition and your memory and attention and processing speed, executive function, all those things that come through with the brain. And all of that is put together. All that information is put along with the blood work and MRIs of the brain and the testing. And we say, this is your life. After all this testing, this is where you stand today. You might know your lifespan, but we're going to tell you your health span. Where do you stand at this moment in time? And then your personalized individual program will start from that point. Yes, you're going to go through the hyperbaric treatments, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. But after that 2-hour session, you might meet with the physiologist, you might meet with the physical therapist. Every few weeks, you're going to speak to the dietitian. How is your diet doing? Because it all comes into play. You have to be an active participant in your health, and that goes with every medical domain, especially with ours, because we hold you accountable and we want you to hold us accountable, because you're going to come in every day.
You know, I can't imagine the number of times myself personally, but everybody says, you know, I've got to make changes. I've got to improve my lifestyle. You know, it's now or never. This program seems to be like the ultimate reset. I mean, if you're ready, if you want to totally change your life moving forward, this seems like a pretty good place to begin.
Absolutely. And you said it best, Marc. That initial conversation, I asked them a couple of things. First, I asked, what is your wish list? If you were to do the program, what do you want to come out of the program with? For some people, it's, I want to prevent cognitive decline. I want to improve my memory. For some people, it says, I've noticed something significant. I want to see if I can treat it. My next question is, are you ready to commit to the full program? Because your success is going to be determined on your commitment. Are you going to be coming in every day? Are you going to listen to the dietitian? Are you going to work with her to adjust your diet? Are you going to work with the physiologist with your exercise program? And if they're ready to commit, they're ready to do the program. And it's a beautiful thing to watch somebody work together and achieve a common goal.
I would like to live a long, active life, but even more than that, I would like the period of decline at the end of my life. And, you know, let's face it, we are all biological beings, and at some point, you know, we will decline, and nobody's getting out of here alive. But that said, I'm also fascinated with compressed morbidity, the notion that we can reduce the period of decline at the end of our life. I'm guessing that this would support that as well.
Absolutely. There are many statistics out there about how much we spend financially and emotionally on the last few days of our lives. And a lot of it has to do with the morbidity. And if you can reduce the morbidity at the end of the life, you're going to go out riding into the sunset, so to speak, in a good way. That being said, there's something that happens through this process. I mentioned it earlier on, where we can lengthen your telomeres. Telomeres are protective caps at the end of your chromosomes. As we age, those chromosomes will split, replicate, and continue that process. And each time, those protective caps shorten little by little, and they're protecting our DNA. When those telomeres get to a specific short critical point, the cell is smart. It knows if I replicate one more time, I potentially could have damage to my DNA. I no longer have that protective cap. So it stops replicating, but it doesn't die off. It stays there and it becomes an age senescent cell. Those senescent cells build up over time as we age. And those senescent cells release pro-inflammatory markers. And those are what's responsible for our age-related chronic diseases, age-related cognitive decline, even some cancers. And that has to do with our morbidity. So if we can lengthen the telomeres, we can reverse the age of those cells and reverse our age and prevent that senescence, preventing that morbidity. And that's what we did. We have a big study that shows with this process, we increase the length of the telomeres. And this is groundbreaking. This is revolutionary.
So you're a renowned physician, in demand. I'm guessing you could have done many things, including stay where you were with a successful practice. You turned your life upside down to move to the Villages, Florida, to be outside of Israel, the only AVIV clinic in the world. Are you excited to be there? Are you happy with the lifestyle change you made?
Absolutely. To all my patients in New Jersey, I still miss and love you dearly. I would never trade my training and my practice and that experience, because I think it helped me become the physician and person I am today. But when you're presented with an opportunity to do something revolutionary, use your craft in a new way to make significant changes, to be ahead of the curve, so to speak, the way we practice here at the AVIV Clinics is different. It's the way medicine should be. I know my patients inside and out at the AVIV Clinic. They have their trust in me and trust in the program. And when they finish the program, I tell every single one of them, just because you're quote unquote done with the program does not mean you're done. The process is happening physiologically in you, and you have all of us, myself, all the clinicians that help with that process. We're going to check in. There's a follow-up program. I never gave my cell phone out when I was practicing back home. And all my patients at the AVIV Clinic have my cell phone. It's a relationship that's forever.
The research out of Tel Aviv University suggests that this hyperbaric oxygen treatment can potentially reverse the age of a cell by 25 years. And if you'd like to learn more about the AVIV Clinic and its one-of-a-kind program that's built around hyperbaric oxygen therapy, just check out their website at aviv-clinics.com. Check them out on Facebook at AVIV Clinics, or you can give them a call at 352-488-2848. This is a fascinating, potentially game-changing development. But to reinforce Dr. Mo's point, no matter what science might create that supports longer lives, the impact of those advances, the potential benefit from them will never be maximized without our active participation. And not just what we do, exercise and diet, but most especially what we think. At the top of the show, I mentioned our rare interview with Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, the Nobel Prize winner who proved the impact of our thoughts at a cellular level. I want to play one short clip from that interview, the moment a Nobel laureate validated the life-changing growing bolder message that we've been espousing for years. Multiple studies have underscored the power of our belief systems relative to how we age. We like to say on Growing Bolder, what the mind believes, the body embraces. You write that our cells are actually listening to our thoughts. Is that actually true? Do you believe that our mind can inform our body?
Oh, not belief. I don't. There are data that are absolutely clear. And, if you want 1 minute of thinking about that, think about if you're really fearful, your heart races, your stomach churns. Well, that's your mind affecting your body, right? It's just that the effect that your mind has on your body, on telomeres, is something that's playing out over longer time periods. Plenty of data that how we think is having real effects on our physiology and therefore on our health.
The amazing power of belief. By the way, I did ask Dr. Blackburn, other than our belief system, what is the prescription to healthy longevity? And without hesitation, she said, quote, move. And then added, we don't have to run marathons, but we do have to make movement a part of our daily lives. And then she added, stop eating refined sugar and sugary beverages, which in her words will quantifiably shorten our telomeres. All right, we leave you once again with the contact information for the AVIV Clinic, the science-based team that did the transformational research and created the hyperbaric oxygen therapy treatment. Can it help you? Well, reach out and find out. And we'll see you next time on What's Next.
Growing bolder, what's next?